Guten Morgen, or as we say here in America, good morning. Yes, my German has popped back in my brain for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because of the fact of a lot of things I've been reading and getting into. Yesterday was a day of rest. Basically, we didn't do anything beyond taking out the trash, cleaning up after meals, things of that nature. Daily routines that is kind of like, well, if we leave it until the next day, it could get nasty and be a attractant for bugs. It's bad enough I got I got trash pandas or raccoons wanting to get into my garbage and dig through that. I did find a way to repel them, though. I just keep on forgetting to do it. 2 ways to repel raccoons from your trash. One is before you take your trash out, pour a little apple cider vinegar into your garbage. Literally pour it on top of your garbage before you tie up the bag, and then throw it into your outside garbage can if you're in an area that has raccoons. It does kind of work on bears, from what I was told from a friend that lives up in bear country, like up in the greater Northwest. The smell of the apple cider vinegar may attract the trash panda, but when they get a mouthful of it, they just don't like that. Raccoons will smell the apple cider vinegar and avoid it because it smells like poison. Bears have a higher sense of smell than raccoons, and they will smell the apple cider vinegar, but they will also smell the other trash items and think, okay, if I can get past the bad stuff, I can get to the good stuff. Somebody actually showed me a picture of what happens when raccoons or bears or certain other animals that like to dig into other people's garbage gets a mouthful of apple cider vinegar. It reminds me of a dog with a mouthful of peanut butter. It's just that blah, 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 blah. Look, trying to get that taste out of their mouth type thing. It's kind of comical. But anyhow, being that yesterday was a day of rest, I decided to basically spend my time or a portion of my time reading. So I read a little bit out of this guy, and I may or may not talk about it in a later date, or maybe that will be part of this video. So if this video gets long, that might be why, or I might just do a video just on this guy, and then a video on the other one. We are at the end of the second or the third part, the spirit of self-sufficiency. In this part, she gives 20 steps to a kitchen Hygge, let me reread that. My mind jumped over a whole word. 20 steps to a Nordic kitchen Hygge. So you gotta realize, a lot of this information I'm reading is based on this person's experience and knowledge and whatnot from her homeland of Oslo, Norway. She goes to talk about master at least 5 ways to cook with nature's original superfood. And she gives the list of superfoods. The egg. Gently boil, scramble in butter, poach and fry, or make into omelets. All great starts. Eggs are the one food I can eat at breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, afternoon snack. Yeah. Basically, eggs. Eggs are a wondrous thing. You can cook them, you can boil them, you can poach them, you can broil them. Eggs are one of the main binding ingredients for just about any kind of food. We here at this house, I like scrambled eggs for breakfast. Joanne will eat scrambled eggs, but she likes sunny side up or over easy. Mom's a scrambled egg person. We eat those for breakfast almost every day. when we had bought, here's a little funny story. We had ordered through our local, I can't remember the name of it, Instacart. There we go, Instacart. And what it was is we went on to the Aldi's app to order and have Instacart bring it to us because we didn't feel like going out to do any shopping, but we needed certain kinds of groceries. Jerry asked me, how many dozen eggs do you think we should get? And I said, 3. 3 lasts us a good long time. A good week or 2, you know? And she's like, okay. Well, she got through the Instacart, and at the bottom, before you check out, it says, did you forget? And it gives you a list of things that you might have forgotten from, they, have your last purchase on there. And it said, did you forget? And one of the first things it asks is, did you forget the eggs? So she must have accidentally thought that, she forgot to put it into the cart or it didn't take it or something like that. So she put 3. So we, surprisingly enough, Aldi's let this person get 6 dozen eggs. So we got the eggs and I went, honey, did you do something goofy with the eggs? And she goes, oh no, did I forget to put them in the cart? I'm like, no. You somehow got 6 dozen eggs. She goes, oh, because I put it in the cart, but at the bottom it said, did you forget? And it asked me if I forgot to put in eggs. So I thought it meant that I forgot to put eggs in. And I went, oh, okay. So nevertheless, to say that we had 3 dozen eggs in our 6 dozen. I keep on saying 3 because that's what we originally wanted. But we ended up with 6 dozen eggs. So what do? We took 2 dozen, boiled them up. We made 12 of those boiled eggs into just hard-boiled eggs for Jerry to pop, to munch on. They're a quick, beneficial, super, like it says, superfood. I mean, it's got your proteins, your cholesterol. It's got all the important stuff in it. Protein, carbs. It's a gluten-free snack. It's easy to just grab and go. And then we took the other dozen and made it into deviled egg salad. So I can just basically have it on lettuce or on a sandwich or whatever. Well, that deviled egg salad didn't really last that long. Not because of the fact that we gobbled it up, but because one of the ingredients that we used to make it either went bad or something was wrong. Because after about the 3rd or 4th day, it was tasting sour. So I was like, what could this be? Could it be the paprika? Could it be the onion, salt, mustard powder? Could it be the mayo? What could have made it go bad this quickly? Because it was very extra watery. So we don't know. But eggs are a superfood. I mean, they're delicious. They're great. You can use them for breakfast. You can hard-boil a bunch of them for snack items, or they even, if you can keep them at a decent temperature, they're even good for on the go for road trips or outings of one form or another if you keep them in a cooler. We use them for, most baking that we do. One of the main ingredients for baking is an egg. Very few recipes I know of, unless it's all already done in a box, calls for an egg to be a binder. So meatloaf, when you make meatloaf, you at least use 1 egg because it's a binder. But and then she goes on to talk about number 2. Taste and season as you go. Repeat. So many follow a recipe to a T in terms of salt and pepper. Yet someone has different levels of tolerance when it comes to seasoning and spices. I like my food quick, highly seasoned. You may not. Oh, quite highly seasoned. You may not. I'm sorry. Whatever you do, use sea salt jealously. In other words, you can use extra sea salt instead of iodized salt. My house here prefers sea salt because it is a flavor enhancer and it has its own quality of salt. My mom would regularly use table salt, but me and Jerry would use sea salt in a grinder. We have a reusable grinder and a bag of pink Himalayan sea salt that we use for our foods. It's great. Again, it's one of those things where, yeah, she's right. Everybody has their own tolerance to seasonings, spices, and whatnot. My mom does not like pepper of any form. She thinks it burns. I would rather use either whole garlic or garlic salt instead of garlic powder, because garlic powder has a different flavor than regular garlic. But I'm also the one who can sit here and eat really spicy foods. I like wasabi. I won't eat a lot of it, but I do like the flavor of wasabi. My wife can handle mild spices. I can handle like curry and kimchi. Well, it's been a long time since I've had kimchi, but kimchi is like a really spicy cabbage. But yeah, try different. I mean, if you are not a spice person and you want to learn how to tolerate spice, start light, go slow. I told this story once before. My grandmother, from my mom's side of the family, did not know anything about spices other than salt and pepper. So when my mom and dad got married, they got, according to my mom, the story goes that she unwrapped, basically my dad let her unwrap everything, but she ended up unwrapping like 5 different spice racks. And my mom was like, why do we need so many spice racks? And everybody from my dad's side of the family goes, oh, you'll learn. Yeah, my dad had practically every variety of spice in the house. Hickory smoked salt, garlic, onion, paprika, chili powder. I don't think he ever had cayenne pepper, but he had a lot. Yeah, he had cayenne pepper. He didn't have curry powder, is what I was thinking. But he had all kinds of spices. We had the last spice rack I remember we had after he passed away that I had my mom keep for a while. Then it ended up getting damaged or something like that because it was 30 plus years old. Was a 5-tier enclosed spice cabinet that you can hang up on the wall near the stove. I wish I could have kept it. I really do. Second one, or the third one I should say, is bread. There's a reason why it's referred to as the staff of life, or stuff of life. And why we break bread with someone is an act of kinship. Take the time to make a simple loaf of bread. All you need is a good flour, water, salt, and yeast, or no yeast if you're opt to make your own sourdough starter. I love sourdough. A little patience if you have the time, budget, and ingredients. Then there is a wonderful bread festival every September in Denmark. And then she gives the name of a town that I cannot read or pronounce. That's a Hygge holiday right there. Bread is good. Unfortunately, around this house, we have to watch what kind of breads we eat because Jerry is trying her best to stay away from gluten, because it does affect the joints. I know when I eat less gluten, I feel a whole lot better, joint wise. But I love my breads. My mom used to make breads in a bread machine. We had a bread machine that literally all you had to do is put in the ingredients and hit the button, and it would do the work for you. The kneading, the cooking, the whole 9. And I used to love making homemade breads. I would love to sit down and try to find a keto-friendly, gluten-free type bread recipe to make my own breads that way. But Jayanne and I will every so often break protocol, and she does it more for me than she does it for herself, and make homemade. Well, we have a recipe, so it's not really homemade, but it's the closest thing to homemade banana bread we can get that's basically gluten-free. We use almond flour or whole wheat flour instead of just regular white flour, because regular white flour, the bleaching process to get white flour is not exactly the healthiest thing on the planet. In fact, I read in my Nordic Way cookbook that the best kind of bread for people would be either sourdough or like a whole grain bread. Of course, there are now scientific studies that say that the seeds from the grain breads can get caught into your intestinal tract and cause what they call leaky gut. So I'm kind of like, well, maybe I should stay away from the grain bread, but I'll definitely, I love the breads that basically I was told was the best that won't cause any so-called health issues and whatnot would be like sourdough, rye breads. So that's what we eat around here. Sourdough or rye bread. Mom at first didn't know she was gonna like it, so she tried both breads and she was like, "Oh, that's not bad," So, with that, bread or any decent bread you happen to have in your kitchen, turn a sandwich into something noble. Most of the salad suggestions in this book can be reconfigured to make Nordic open sandwiches. Ooh, I do have a recipe for a Nordic sandwich, which is not really an open sandwich, but basically it's called a two-bread sandwich. You take a slice of sourdough and a slice of rye. On one slice of bread, you spread like Dijon mustard. On the other side, you spread hummus. Yes, you heard it right here, hummus. And then you put a slice of ham in it, and then on top of the ham, I usually mix it in with the hummus. You take grated carrot. Yes, grated carrot. Put it on the sandwich. Slap the two ends, two different breads together, and it makes a decent sandwich. Mom likes it, so if Mom likes it, I know it's good. And she goes to say, and we have a mild obsession with butter. Indeed, the Danes have an expression for how much butter should grace your slice of bread. And again, I'm not going to say that word, but it says, or tooth butter, which tells you how much the butter should be spread. The art of making a great sandwich is one of the most underrated kitchen skills. Yeah, a lot of people will just take a sandwich and slap on some spread, whether it's butter or mayo or mustard. Slap a couple pieces of meat in there, maybe a slice of cheese, and then throw a top bun on, or top slice on top of it. I tell you what, my wife loves the way I make sandwiches because I don't just slather it on there. I mean, I like slap it on there, and if there's not a good layer of mayo or mustard or whatever I'm putting on for a spread, and then a good layer, I mean, 4, 5, 6 pieces of meat, and then a slice or two of cheese, and then the second piece I'll probably slather on. If one side has mustard, the other piece will have a nice layer of mayo. And if I have the ingredients, I'll put some not cucumbers. I have done cucumbers before, but I'll put like a couple slices of sandwich pickle or a couple of the burger pickles, and then some lettuce. When I really feel like making food, I make food. If I'm not in the mood to make food, but I'm just making food for substance reasons, for just, filling my stomach or whatnot, I don't care. But when I get that, like when I used to work at, well, every place I've worked that's food oriented has a like scale, or this is how much you put in, and I'm like, this isn't enjoyable. This is just food for the sake of eating. But especially when I used to work at Taco Bell, and it was like, okay, Jim, take your break, make something to eat, and have a meal. I'm like, okay. Depending on what I felt like. I mean, when I we have at Taco Bell, there's 4 different sizes tortillas. There's your regular small tortilla for like your soft taco. Then there's a medium size tortilla for certain kinds of burritos, and then there's a jumbo, huge, pizza pan sized burrito for making the bigger burritos. And I used to make my own burrito, and it was like, I would take the big burrito, and they're like, you're going to eat that whole, you're going to eat whatever you're putting in. I'm like, there won't be nothing left. I'll be coming back for seconds, okay? And I would like the taco ground beef, a scoop of the steak for the steak burritos, some rice, the sauce, lettuce, no tomatoes, I don't like tomatoes, sour cream, and I make this big old giant, you can hardly get it fully rolled, and people looking at me like, what? And I'm like, oh, I'm not done. Slapped it in one of their trays, took the enchilada sauce on top of that with some of the cheese sauce on top of that, and I'd have to use a fork and knife to eat it, but people are like, what's that? I'm like, it's a Jim Henson special. What's a Jim Henson special? Everything but the kitchen sink. And I loved mixing the sauces, because I take their chipotle sauce and their spicy tortilla sauce, or whatever, that spicy, like a creamy jalapeno sauce, something like that, put it on there and go eat it, and people like, he ate the whole thing. And I'd be like, yeah, but I'll be regretting it later. Loved it, but I'll regret it later. But I love to make food. I mean, when I get creative and I got the right ingredients in my possession, I'll go to town. I've created things that you can't even make a recipe for, because there's no measurements. It's just by taste. And that's the same way my dad was, by taste. Number 5, make monthly batches of chicken stock. Basically making she gives you an idea of how to make your own chicken stock, basically. Take a whole chicken, like let's say you got a whole Cornish hen or something like that. Stick it in a stock pot with water, celery, carrots, and chicken seasoning, and you can make your own chicken stock. Or you can take the carcass, like let's say you have the leftover bones and whatnot with a little bit of meat and whatnot still on the bone. You can put that in a boiling pot of water and make chicken stock. Yeah. Doesn't have to be complicated. All you'll need is a few chicken carcasses. You can use leftovers from a roast, or pick them up. Okay. Pick them up for a song at the local butcher. In other words, I guess they're in the old country. You can go down to a local butcher and see if they have any like chicken carcasses or whatnot, and see if you can grab it. They'll let you purchase it or whatever. A large pot, enough to hold them in, and water to cover the bones. That's it. Yeah, that's a simple chicken stock. It's just boiled down chicken. And then, it says you can add in like peppercorns, garlic, ginger, bay leaves, parsley stalks, fennel stalks, carrots, onions, whatever you wish. But you know that the bones are essential, all you need to make good homemade chicken stock. Simmer for a few hours and remove the bones before reducing to a gelatinous concentration. So basically, just simple chicken stock. Chicken stock is a whole lot easier to make than beef stock, because beef stock, you need the bones, you need the water, you need the other ingredients to flavor it the way you want it. but chicken stock is more readily used in most Nordic foods than beef. Number 6. Oh, here we go. Number 6, cook a large batch of meaty stew, bolognese or chili con carne, and freeze in individual portions. Batch cooking is a lifeline for everyone, and I mean everyone. I don't care how old-fashioned it sounds. She's right. Cooking batches of food that you can freeze for either like stock, chicken stock, beef stock, whatever, chili con carne, bolognese, any kind of sauce. Chili is considered a sauce for some foods. Bolognese is considered a sauce for a lot of different foods. Chicken and beef stock are considered flavorings, or you can make it into gravy or whatever. Making stocks, making portion batches of gravies or sauces of one form or another are a great way to make cooking easier, because then it's like, oh, let's see, what are we going to do? Okay, what's left in the pantry? Okay, we got noodles, we've got beans, we've got corn, we got canned vegetables. What do we got in the freezer? Let's see here. We got some chicken meat, we got some beef, we got some pork meat, we got fish fillets. What can I make? Well, chicken. Pull some chicken out. Pull a little tub, frozen thing of chicken bouillon or stock. Put the pasta in to cook. You take the chicken, you fry it up. You maybe add the chicken broth or stock to the chicken as it's cooking, so it adds more flavor. You can make chicken franchise. You can make all kinds of different dishes. Same with the bolognese. Let's say you got beef instead of chicken and you want some sort of beef dish. You want to boil up your pasta. Defrost and defrost and reheat the bolognese sauce and cook up the beef, and then you've got dinner. A lot of simple things that a lot of people take for granted. And I know a lot of people can't do what she's suggesting because of their life, their jobs or whatnot. But still, if you can take the time to make stock and whatnot and freeze it, it's so easy to reheat it, reconstitute it, make it taste good and whatnot, and add it to your foods while you're dealing with the little ones or life on the run. Number 7, onions. Yeah, I can understand onions are an essential. Onions always take longer to cook than a recipe tells you, thanks to she talks about somebody who talks about cooking with onions. Onions are one of the interesting things. You can slice them, you can dice them, you can mince them, saute them, grill them, broil them, bake them. Onions are one of those foods that it adds flavor, it adds texture to your meal. And depending on what meal you're making, depends on how you cook your onions. I mean, 9 times out of 10 around here, what we like to do is we like to take the onions, slice them up, cut them up however we want them, throw them in a frying pan with a pat of butter, put a lid over them, let them cook down until they're nice, and they don't have to be glazed or anything like that, but they can be nice and soft and not as crunchy. It takes away some of their flavor unless you're using sweet Vidalia. Sweet Vidalia onions adds a whole different taste, a whole different flavor, and it's sweeter. So when you cook them down, whether you're caramelizing them or just cooking them down so they're easily used in your meal, adds a sweet, delicious flavor. I love sweet Vidalias just because of their texture, their flavor. That, in fact, when you slice them, they don't make your eyes water up because of the acids and the juices. Now this one, number 8, I'm not a fish person, so I probably would not use this one, but number 8, filleting a fish, handling raw meat and having a basic knowledge which cuts of meat to cook with rule number 1, get to know your kitchen. or your local fishmonger, not kitchen, I'm sorry, your local fishmonger and butcher, if you have one. Ask lots of questions with meat. Be aware that the fillet is the most tender cut of the carcass, but with least interesting in terms of flavor. Okay, yeah. Fillets of meat, whether it's fish, chicken, beef, pork, whatnot, it's the most tender piece of meat, but it has the least amount of flavor. So if you're using fillets, you want to be able to cook it with other ingredients to give it a flavor, because most fillets will absorb the flavor of the other products that you're cooking with, whether it's vegetables, seasonings. I have a recipe that uses chicken fillet, and it can be cooked with either like basically I can take a chicken fillet and cook it with just about anything, whether it's going to be balsamic vinegar, teriyaki, soy sauce, depending on what I'm cooking the chicken with. Like, let's say I'm making my Nordic chicken salad. I don't need anything with it. It's just grill the chicken fillet, dice it up, and throw it on top of the vegetable portion of it, which is basically just sliced up cabbage with cubed Swiss cheese and a oil mustard vinaigrette. It's a simple dish. Number 9. Music is great to listen to while cooking, and having an impromptu kitchen disco is always well and good until you drop a butcher's knife preciously close to your foot, as I've done. Well, she's already said she's kind of klutzy anyhow. It's also led to a few near tumbles, and I have set fire to a tea towel or two while shimmying around the kitchen. All I can say is dance responsibly. I like to play music while I'm cooking, whether I have an earbud in my ear or I'm playing it just in general. I'm not a dancer, so I don't have to worry about, the dancing aspect of it. But the idea of the kitchen, filling your kitchen with music while you're cooking is meant to make the experience a little bit more joyful, because some people, when they cook, get a little mundane because it's like, oh, I don't have, basically for me it's a distraction, so I don't sit there and go, oh, this is taking too long to boil, or this is taking too long to roast, or whatever. I've been known to play my music while cooking breakfast. It does two things for me. It basically livens up the situation and wakes me up and makes it actually, for me, the music makes me a little bit more aware of what I'm doing. Number 10, excuse me. Practice making one favorite dessert at least 3 times or until you've nailed it. It's a great source of pride for a cook to have one fail-safe dessert in the repertoire, knowing it will always be a crowd pleaser. Let's say you like to bake. I'm not a big baker. If I'm baking something, it's either by a recipe or somebody's guiding me through the process. I can take out a frozen pie and throw it in the oven and let it cook that way. But when you make something from scratch, basically you're not using a recipe. You might be using a recipe, but you're not using a pre-made. Pour the ingredients into a bowl and add egg, water, or milk, mix, and then pour into your pan. I'm talking about literally pulling open your recipe book, finding the recipe to one of your favorite childhood desserts, and making that literally from scratch, from the ingredients you have to have in your kitchen to make. It does, I mean, let's take baking to the side, because yeah, baking is my mom or my wife. They're the bakers. I'm not. I take a lot of pride when I can make a meal without following a recipe or without having to worry about, do I have the right ingredients or do I have the right box of food? I'm trying to steer as far away from pre-made meals as possible. Even though once in a blue moon, my mom is like, "Oh, I wouldn't mind having a hamburger helper, cheeseburger mac, or something like that." I'm actually trying to figure out how to make that without using the box. In fact, our last meal that my mom really, really liked was a recipe that I saw the picture for and the title of from YouTube or something like that. And Jerry and I basically looked it up and went, oh, it's like making a meatloaf, but you're flattening it out and you're adding cheese in the middle and then rolling that up and then wrapping it in bacon, and they call it basically a bacon cheeseburger roll. And that's what we had, and it was delish. Number 11. If you really loathe baking, that's me, and can't face it that's fine, and cannot face it, then that's fine. Berries can always be relied upon as an alternative. Just spritz them with a little lemon juice and sugar, or elderflower cordial. Oh, that's a liquor. If they're tart. Or flambe them in a little brandy. Grand Marnier. Sorry, I butchered that word. No, I didn't. Marnier. And fresh orange juice for a boozy berry dessert. Wonder if I can change that to mead. I don't know. Sorry. Everyone loves sorbet or ice cream. So yeah, basically, if you're not a baker and you can't make a great dessert, you can always take, berries and ice cream and basically make a dessert that way. Try to make sure the berries aren't too tart. Otherwise, it might change your ice cream or the flavor. Number 12, all traditional food cultures have relied on preserving methods and fermentation to keep valuable foodstuffs from spoiling. Now, science is recognizing the manifold health benefits of those foods. So if you're feeling adventuresome, try fermenting something. The best advice out there is from Sandor Alex Katz. Check them out. You'll be inspired, I promise. Okay. Number 13. Everything tastes better with butter. Lightly salted is preferred. I'll be honest with you, she's right. There's a lot of things that we cook in butter. And I tell you what, there was one thing that I tried to cook once without butter, and it was not as good. Around here, my household, we have two different types of butters. One is just your generic, everyday, unsalted or salted butter. Unsalted we usually use for baking, and what's salted we use for cooking. Then we have Kerrygold, Irish Kerrygold butter. And I'll tell you what, I've cooked with both, and every time I go to cook, it's like, where's the Kerrygold? I'm not using this generic stuff. It's not as Kerrygold adds its own flavor because it's naturally sweetened, and well, I don't know if they actually sweeten it, but because of the factor Kerrygold, most of the animals who eat most animals who produce the Kerrygold butter, or the milk that they use to make Kerrygold butter, are pasture grass fed. There's no hay, there's no artificial foods or anything like that to help. It's all natural. It's one of the reasons why Kerrygold does cost a little bit more than regular butter. And I love it. All right. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to end this video because it's already 40 minutes long. And I'll name this video whatever. Cooking impromptu dishes during the week when you're limited for time relies on keeping a well-stocked pantry. I'm not going to read into the rest of this part because she breaks it down into bullet points. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here because the next part of this section that I'm going to read is called My Fridge and Pantry Essentials, and she starts listing the various essentials in her pantry. That in effect, I've got at least 5 more points after this because this whole pantry part is pretty big. But I will continue this in a secondary video. So I will have 2 videos coming out today, and I apologize. Anyhow, to end this video, I'm going to say that she's got a lot of points there when it comes to, and it doesn't have to be a Nordic kitchen. Most of us do not live in Norway or any of the other Nordic European countries. We live here in America. But the essentials are basically simple. We can Americanize our kitchens to the best of our ability to be Hygge. We can live a Hygge lifestyle, without having to be Nordic. I don't think the whole idea of Hygge is essentially just European or Nordic or anything like that. Excuse me, folks. Sorry, my nose started itching, and it was the inside. I really think that a lot of the things that she's been talking about is very inspiring. It's one of those things where I go, okay, well, yeah, I can see us doing that. I can see us doing a lot of the things that she talks about in this book. One of you had mentioned not too long ago in one of your messages, there's a book out there called American Cozy, which is a Hygge-inspired book for America. And a lot of people might sit there and go, well, your book, what you're reading right now is on Nordic Hygge. Well, the idea of Hygge does come from the Nordic nations. But the thing is, why can't we here in America use Nordic or European ideas to make our lives better and happier and more beneficial? Why do we have to separate the factor that, they're talking about Norway and Nordic nations? So, I've been told that the state of Minnesota is a Nordic-inspired state. I mean, look at I'm not into football, but somebody pointed out, look at the name of the football team from Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings. Okay. I've been told topographical, Minnesota does kind of resemble some of the topographical areas of Nordic nations. You got to realize that Nordic nations are 5 different countries. Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. I think that's 5. Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden. Yeah. Those 5 nations, those 5 European nations still live almost like they used to in the idealism, not the actual rough Viking type thought, but they still honor their Norse ancestral holidays and festivities and all that fun stuff, and they try to live the ideal as idealistically as possible as the original ideas of the Nordic people. And the Nordic people were originally started out as farmers, and just out of necessity became more and more people consider them Vikings. Well, Vikings is not a people. Vikings is a occupation, which I've said plenty of times. So, just think about the fact that we can do a lot of what this book is talking about here in America without even being Nordic. Anyhow, hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Questions or comments are always acceptable in the comment box, and I will deal with them as soon as I see them, or as soon as I can get to them. If you're new to my channel and enjoyed this particular subject, you can go back to Hygge Part 1 and watch the whole series. But if you choose to join, that is your choice. I appreciate it. You can click on the subscribe button, and a little bell will pop up. And when that bell does pop up, you click on the bell, and YouTube will let you know when I put in my next video. And until next time, have a good day. Bye.